welcome. This is our kitchen here at the farm that we just had built. It's actually so that we can start to share culinary stuff for you guys. So this is very fun to do this. And I have my sous chef Bodhi here with me. You want to say hi?
Hi.
So today I have picked, we're going to be making a healing soup and a dandelion tea. And the healing soup is up on Apricot Lane Farms website. I think it's Apricot Lane Farms /recipes where you can find that. But we're switching it up and we're using a bunch of stuff that's in the garden because it's a super flexible recipe and it just shows you that you can do this at home too with what you've got. So we'll do that. And I wanted to first start by telling you a little bit about our perspective in the kitchen. So we like to focus on how to maximize nutrition in everything that we're doing and make it the most digestible that we possibly can so that we can stay as strong as we possibly can to withstand the pressures of life and things like coronavirus. So that's the recipes I chose today, definitely do that. And the way to maximize nutrient density is using different techniques. So over time, as we do recipes, I'll be telling you about different ones that we would use. Today, we're gonna be using a chicken stock, and I'm gonna show you how to make that. I have some made that we can make the soup with at the beginning. And then once we do that, I'll tell you about the chicken stock and how to make it. So there's that. We do the same thing. If you're gonna make nutrient-dense food, you have to start with nutrient-dense food from the farmer. So that's actually how we got into farming, was wanting to find the most nutritious food that we can. And the way we do that in the field is by focusing on the top 10 to 12 inches of soil, maximizing the fertility there, which then makes things more digestible for the tree. So that's the earth's gut, and then we're focusing on the gut of the people. So you wanna get started? Okay, so in the soup today is going to be snap peas. So I think online it's asparagus, broccoli, something else. And we're gonna sub out today some snap peas, which Bodhi's gonna actually snap. He's really good at this task, so you get started. So he's gonna do that. We have some beautiful collards that we sent up today that are back here. And the garden is really showing off its beauty. Joy, our head gardener, she and her team are amazing, and they just sent this up and it was so beautiful we had to put it out. And then I'm gonna throw a little bit of cauliflower that we just got from the store just to round it out. And then we're adding a very special ingredient today, stinging nettle. So this is something that is really good for springtime. Springtime is the time of detoxification. It's a time that when we really listen to our bodies don't want quite as much food in springtime because we're flushing things. And so we eat a little bit lighter, and then we also can add things like this in that are very nutrient packed. They assist in detoxification, and they have a lot of iron in it too, which can be really fortifying. So I'm gonna tell you more about these because we have to use gloves to be able to use them because they are actually stingy. Okay, how's it going over here?
We'll see.
Look, we already have 4. He's on this. He's got this task. So while Bodhi's doing that, I'm gonna start with 2 items from the garden. So online, I think it's a regular onion, either red or yellow, and then garlic. We're gonna use leeks, and I'm realizing how ambitious this recipe is. We might be here for an hour, but we can do it. So we have leeks here instead of the onion, and we have green garlic right here. So green garlic is very young garlic, and so it's not quite bulbed out yet, so you can use this whole thing and just chop it up. And it's something I look forward to every spring when green garlic comes in, because now's the time that the garden goes a bit quiet. It goes quiet for like a month. There's not as much stuff in there, but then green garlic comes, and then everything is coming soon after that. Okay. So, how are we doing, John?
We're doing good.
Good.
Just
John?
remind them one more time what we're making, just in case people just joined.
So, we're making healing soup, which is online on apricotlanefarms.com/recipes. You can find it there. It's just a very simple pureed soup with a good chicken stock that is designed to be nourishing and simple for the digestive system. So, in this time of Corona, that's very important. And then we're gonna later make some, I'm gonna show you how to make chicken stock, and we're gonna make a dandelion root tea. That's fun because we actually went out and harvested dandelion root, and we're gonna show that to you guys.
Look how many I already got.
Good job. And we need more, so keep going.
Yeah. Do I have to unfill that whole pot?
Not the whole thing, but you can keep going pretty far. Okay, so the good thing about a pureed soup is it's very forgiving. You don't actually have to have perfect knife skills in any way to make a good soup. So you want to use the light green parts. Once you start getting down to the dark green, you can just pull it away. And leeks can be sandy, and so sometimes you have to rinse them real well, submerge them in water after you cut them, but these aren't very sandy, so we'll be fine. So I'm gonna start today with coconut oil. You can use any good fat. I would use potentially, what, you don't think so?
I like to do that.
Oh, you like? I know, but here, come on over. You can pour it in.
Well, is that enough?
No, you gotta keep going. You keep doing that part.
Well, maybe I'll start on it after that.
I like it. Okay, so coconut oil, I put it in. Coconut oil, just a little bit in here. Coconut oil is antiviral. So that is a good thing in this time of the coronavirus. So this is, we talked about coconut oil last time a lot, so I won't go into super detail, but it's an oil that's a very light oil, and so I like it in this soup. It just kind of keeps the flavor and the feeling of what it's like to eat it very light, and so I find though you can use like a bacon fat or any kind of oil, I tend to go here. You could also use olive oil very nicely for this one. Okay, so leeks in. We're gonna just let those start cooking down. Are you eating as many as your
No. I'm telling you, there's some still left there's some still left on the end that we don't want, so I'm just eating the rest. Like a rat.
Okay. They don't mind. You guys don't. John keeps going like this, but you guys don't mind that Bodhi's participating too, do you? See? Okay. So, anyways, so we have green garlic. I just took off. There was one layer on the outside that was a little bit much, so I just took that off. And I'm throwing everything in compost, which is down here. Okay, everything on the farm that we use like this goes back to the farm.
That we don't use in the
That we don't use in the kitchen, all of our excess. So here are these little ends. They're all gonna go into compost, be broken down by the bugs, and come right back to us as food someday. So, I don't know that I cut this the best way that's gonna be easy to chop, but, so yeah, don't mimic me here, but I'm gonna try to make somewhat of sticks. But like I said, you can use this entire bulb. What's up, bud? Yes. Bodhi's saying that our white dog will clean up everything that hits the ground, which is true. We have, you guys might have seen Todd in the film, and we have another dog finally.
Blue. His name is Blue, and it's funny. Blue, so all that's left was Blue collar that Madison or my team, and then all I could find was a blue leash and for Blue, and that's also good because Blue is his name.
Okay, so you see right here, I just chopped the bulb of green garlic, and it can not be perfect at all because it's going in a soup that's getting pureed. So we're gonna let this cook down for another minute while we get the rest of our other vegetables ready. So keep going with the snap peas. We need a bunch of them, way more than that. And they're gonna go in soon. So, these beautiful collards, these are young collards, and young collards are really nice. They have a more delicate flavor to them. So I think they'll be really good in with soup and not be overly strong. But I think in the soup we have spinach, so the collards and the stinging nettle are gonna be the replacement of that. So what I'm doing here with the collards, you hold it's much like kale, you hold the stem like this and are gonna pinch and pull like that. And it takes the stem right off from the middle of that. So ready? We're gonna do it again. Hold the stem, pull like that. So then the big, thick, stalky part comes off, and which is here, and then you just have your leaf for the soup. So pulling. This will probably be enough of our collard. So, okay, back into compost, the stalks. So we're getting all of our mise en place is the very formal name for this, but we got, that just means all of your different things that are gonna go into your soup. So we got our garlic, but you wanna put in your garlic a little later, so I was a little high here. So you can see it's browned, which is fine, but you kind of want this to sweat down a little bit. Way more. Keep going. Keep going. I'm going to help you actually in a second too.
Is there a vegetarian option for the stock, someone was asking?
Yeah, you can use a vegetable stock, definitely. That'd be no problem whatsoever. And yeah, just switch it out for that because there's nothing else in here that's going to be meat-based.
Cool.
So we'll keep going, buddy. He's eating as much as he's, so.
No, I'm not.
This, I'm going to tell you.
No, I'm not. I'm eating the.
Oh, the ends. Good idea. Okay, stinging nettle. Some people blanch this first. So if they blanch it first, it means in hot water. And so the point of stinging nettle is that it actually is stinging. We had a situation down at our VC, our fertility center, where Bodie rubbed up against, we didn't know this. Bodie just all of a sudden thought he got stung. Do you remember that?
By a bee.
By a bee, yeah. And he has been stung by a bee many times. So we just sort of thought, okay, he got stung by a bee again. But he was like, there's like a lot of them. There's a lot of them that are stinging. And so we were very confused. And it was actually John who said, wait, did you just touch a plant? And we went back and looked. And sure enough, right by the faucet, we were washing our hands after being all in compost. And there was a stinging nettle plant.
I ran and then over, and then a part of the stinging nettle plant leaf touched on my arm when I ran over. So then I was like, what happened? And right after I washed, it was funny when it was when it ran out.
Okay, so that happened to him, and once we figured out that it was stinging nettle, it just basically means it's gonna sting for a little bit, and then it kind of goes through its little cycle, and then it's done, and that's it. Some people actually use stinging nettle for things like arthritis and all sorts of things, I believe. Don't quote me on that one, but I'm pretty sure there's reasons why people will actually sting themselves for different medicinal reasons. But we don't love to do the stinging ourselves part because it is really stingy. So whenever I'm gonna work with it in the kitchen, I just always put on gloves, and these are my very favorite kind of rubber gloves because they're hot pink. Who doesn't like that?
Some people won't not.
Some people might not, and they can pick their own. I think these come in light blue too. But Casabella, I think, and we are not sponsored by anybody, so that's just what we like. But so stinging nettle, if you blanch it, then sometimes they take off the stalks after. I'm not gonna put that much in it today, just a little bit, and so I'm just picking off some of the leaves beforehand.
Way more than
The question is stinging nettle a weed or an herb?
So, that's a good question.
Well, I think I think anything can be considered an herb if it's edible. It's only a weed if we don't like it. We classify it as a weed.
Yeah, would that be the case? I don't know if there's like a formal
the whole way. Yeah,
description.
like we've completely reclassified how we see weeds
good.
and plants. I mean, to us, most things are plants on this farm. There's only a few invasive weeds that we classify as the weed, but a lot of the things have purpose for the building of the fertility of the soil or using in the kitchen.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm sure you could read it and there's some formal distinction, but definitely we grow stinging nettle in our garden, and it also grows wild in different areas. And there is a difference in the wild versus what we cultivate. And the wild we like to use, if, I don't believe we have a ton of it. We don't have enough.
This is
but
how
we
I
would,
do it. I
hang
just
on one sec, bud.
snap it then.
We would use that in our biodynamic preparations, the wild stuff, if we had enough of it. But we do use some cultivated.
And someone was asking why some coconut oil has like a fragrance to it,
So that is
like a stronger smell.
If it's been refined, and
That was
we
from
talked about that.
Sandy Secreto. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Hi, Sandy. So if the coconut oil has been refined, then it's going to have less of the coconut smell. The coconut fragrance is actually a really nice part of cooking. The fudge we made last week, I actually would for sure want that coconut fragrance because it really works nicely in it. And this too I love it in this dish. If you don't like that, then I wouldn't choose a refined oil. I'd instead go and choose another oil that you might like better. Because you could use avocado oil in this. You could use olive oil in this because it's pretty low temperature.
Mom, way more than this.
More than that? Keep going, buddy.
Way more.
A good number more. Okay, now I didn't quite put enough fat in there, I don't think. I can just tell. And I went up a little high, that's why the browning. But I'm not perfect, and you don't have to be perfect either. So we're gonna throw just a little bit more oil in there to keep it
Everybody in the
nice.
world isn't perfect.
Everybody's not perfect, right? What do we say all the time, Bodhi? Perfect isn't the point?
Yeah.
I guess we need to say it a few more times.
To get it perfect.
Yeah, to get it perfect. We do. But we do say it a lot because perfect isn't the point. Okay, so we can take these off for a second.
Okay, now you.
All right, now we got, I like to
And
season,
not totally. Okay.
I like to season our onions and garlic a little bit because if you season as you layer and as you go, it creates more depth of flavor in your entire dish. So we'll do that. Now, I'm gonna pour some of this chicken stock in there. You can see I've scraped most of the fat. I do skim the fat off the top because as you chill chicken stock, it's gonna congeal some of the fat at the top. And if you put too much of that in there, you'll just end up having too oily of a dish. Not that we don't love fat, but it's just a little too much. So to control that, you can skim it off. You could reuse that fat. I don't all the time. I often compost that one, but you certainly could. So I'm just eyeballing this. I think the recipe online calls for like 6 cups, but we're just gonna throw some, actually I'm just gonna use it all. We'll throw that in there. I don't even know what that was, but like I said, if you wanna go off a recipe, use what you got at home, but it's or use what's online, but it's super forgiving. So now let's think about this. I haven't thought it through totally. I think we're gonna start by putting our cauliflower in for a minute. So I'm gonna hang on one sec, bud. I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. He's having to share me with hundreds of people right now, which is that he can't see. So it's a new thing. So I'm gonna actually
No, it's not. I filmed this 4 times.
You're right. You are a pro. And he has to share me. We always say Bodhi is not an only child because he has had to share with the farm since day one and all the people that come through the farm since day one. So, okay, I'm gonna just really roughly chop this cauliflower for a sec just so that we can get this. There's a little ant. There you go, buddy.
Mom, he won't like that.
He will not. I know, that's probably not the nicest place for him. So I'm roughly chopping this.
I would put him outside.
Yes, you're right. Just so that we can get it to cook a little quicker. So we're gonna put this in there. And then we're gonna add our snap peas. You ready, buddy? Okay, I'm gonna actually add just a little bit more cauliflower. I'd probably, if I had time to keep snapping peas, I'd do more peas, but I'm gonna add a little cauliflower because it's ready right here so that I don't make you guys hang around all day. Okay.
Unfortunately, the signal's really blurry for people.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't know if there's anything we can do. I think hopefully we're on the right Wi-Fi.
Okay, well hopefully you can see it at all. So I'm gonna also roughly chop this, keep snapping, buddy. Roughly chop this snap peas.
Mom.
Oh, good job. Keep going though. We need even more.
Mom. Well, here you go.
I'll take those. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, we know the signal is really blurry. I don't know why, but hopefully the one that we put on YouTube later, we'll put this same one up on YouTube, won't be so blurry. So if you're annoyed by that, now we understand. You can watch it on YouTube.
Okay, roughly chopped snap peas from the garden. I think, don't we have a clip of snap peas, or is that not today?
That was from last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last week's we showed us picking peas a little bit because they are in right now and they are beautiful. And so whenever I'm not doing something to a recipe, I can always tell with this that there's not enough in there yet. You don't want it to be like super watery when you're stirring. You want it to be kind of like hefty. Hang on one second. So you want it to be kind of hefty with vegetables in there. And so it means we have more to go. Here, I'm gonna snap a few peas with those. This actually took more peas than we thought. So, you know how to snap? Snap, pull. That's it.
Mom,
Can you do that again?
Yeah. There, wait, I already did that one. So, snap, pull.
Mom, I've been trying to snap and pull, but then I mostly got them just to get the top off.
Oh, nice.
Do we just have to get the top off?
Just the top. If you don't get the string, it's not the worst thing. We're blending this soup anyways. You could probably throw the tops in and it's not gonna hurt anything. But that's the thing, we clean up food so much. That's what I love. If you guys know Jamie Oliver, he was a big inspiration for me, or is still, because he's not afraid of like the little bits of food that are still food, but we just think aren't perfect enough, and he'll throw them in there. And I just have always thought that's so inspiring, because food is meant to be, you're supposed to be like in food. Food is supposed to be an experience and be something that you're really connected to and feel like it's just fun and not perfect and alive. And the whole point is to make it as alive as possible when you're eating it. So we're gonna keep adding a few more of these in here.
Yes, one question is, leeks are green garlic, right?
No.
No?
Those are Cheetos. So
Or green garlic, so yeah, that's a question.
Green garlic is literally just bulbed garlic that is young. So it's the early stages, it's not grown the full way. So they are two totally different things. Leek is, I wanna say maybe either leek or scallion. It's like not in the onion family, or there's something weird about it. I can't remember, but leek is definitely a very different thing. Leek is similar to what you'd use in the onion family, though I'd want to look that up and see if it's actually in the family. And then you have green garlic, which is garlic. So, and that's why it's early in the season, because it's not fully developed. You have to leave the garlic in for a long time to get that full bulbing and be able to store it. So, we'll throw those guys in there. I'm gonna bring those to a, oh, I just had this moment where I was like, oh, what if I cut myself when I'm...
I've been having that moment the whole time watching you cut, thinking of what I would do.
But I didn't cut myself, and I don't typically cut myself. I have plenty of times in whenever I was private chefing. So that's what I used to do while we're letting that come to a boil. I used to be a private chef. The word chef is a little weird to me. I just am like a person who likes to work with food, and I used to do that for families in their house. And that's what we did when we lived down in Santa Monica. I did that. John was filmmaking, and then we moved up to the farm. So, okay, we got that coming to a boil. I need more cauliflower there. We're just going for it because I want it to be thick enough for you guys so it doesn't feel watery. More snap peas, buddy. Anybody have a question while I'm doing this? I can answer somebody.
Bodhi's eating one, snapping one. Eating one, snapping one.
No, I'm not. I'm eating the ends like this.
Oh, you're eating the ends. Ah. Yeah, you look at the pile you've got going. You've done great. Look at that.
I don't know. I don't want to like stay here. Walk all the way to the compost. Go over here. Walk all the way to the compost. Go over here. Walk all the way over to the compost. Go over here.
Oh, and all
What's
of
the best thing to add for protein? That's a
If you want to add protein.
yeah.
When you look at the
You know what I
pile,
like to
that's
do?
the end of the. That's the end of the soup. So that's on there.
Yes. So what I like to do for soups a lot is do something called stuffing. This was an idea that came from a guy that we used to go, ooh, it's nice. There's a lot in here now. I would have more snappies if we could. Okay.
I will.
So just say what we're making one more time and then say that.
So we're making healing soup. You can find it online, apricotlanefarms.com/recipes. We're making a version of it that's seasonal for what we have right now. And we're gonna make some dandelion root tea in a minute and some chicken stock. And this is, when we're live, there are not all the fancy bells and whistles that you get whenever you're recording a culinary show. So you're with me on this with whatever happens. So we got that. So we're gonna let that come to a boil. I'm gonna start getting some water going. I'm gonna fill this up. So we're gonna start the process of chicken stock a little bit here. So this is one of the fancy things of this fancy kitchen that we get to use now. Is I'm serious, this might be my very favorite thing in this kitchen. But you turn this on and it's filling up with water while it's heating up. Is there anything better than that? So that's gonna fill up for a second. I have forgotten that I'm doing this and let it run over and all onto the ground while I had already put the chicken in it. So it meant chicken water had run all over and onto the ground. But today we're gonna remember. Can you help me? Remember that yeah. And then I'm also gonna start heating up some water in this.
Okay, so that's the protein stuffing.
Oh, the protein.
So the protein stuffing. Somebody
Yes.
asked if what can you add for protein?
So what I like to do with soups that are just pureed soups is make something called a stuffing. So you could saute any kind of meats, like ground meats work nicely, like sausage. You could saute some sausage. If you had links of sausage, you could chop it up into little pieces and saute that, and then add something. So in the summer, it's nice to do fresh corn off the cob. In the, you could do some more sauteed zucchini or something like that in it. And then when you have your pureed soup and you pour it into a bowl, then you put a dollop of that stuffing right down in the middle and you get some protein. It becomes what feels like a full meal and it's beautiful too. Okay, so we're almost filled up there. We're almost boiling here.
And we're sorry it's so blurry, it's the connection, but we'll put this on our YouTube channel on Apricot Lane Farms and hopefully it won't be blurry there.
Okay, so we're almost filled up here.
Such a shame.
Oh, actually, I'm not going to turn on the heat yet of this. So I got to show you what you can do, but we're not going to do that yet. Because when you make a chicken stock, what I have been taught to do, and I like to do, is this is one of our chickens from the farm. This was our layer birds. We do sell these. They're used as stock birds. There's some cultures that like to cook with them too, low and slow, because they're going to be very, very tough. But our culture doesn't typically like that super tough meat, so it is better as stock. So I gave this a rinse earlier, so I'm gonna plop that guy, just the whole chicken in there. You can do, this is like, I'm just showing you a stock with a whole bird, but there's so many schools of thought on how much meat to how much bones. If you're making a beef stock, there's other thoughts on that. There's also schools of thought of what is a stock and what is a broth. I like to think of broth being shorter temperature, stock being, shorter cooking times, broth, and then stock being something that you might cook literally overnight and have go on for a long time so that you get as much nutrition out of the bones as you possibly can. And to also maximize doing that, so this is like we're just doing a quick tutorial on stock. We could do a whole session one time and really get into specifics. I can hear this going, because how you cook is with your ears and with your nose if you're Molly, because I can't remember anything, so I have to do it this way. So that's going a little strong. So I just turned it down to a simmer. I wouldn't have wanted it to be that boily, but it's not gonna hurt anything.
And Miss Robinson's saying we need the stuffing instructions added to the site, but isn't there a recipe that has the stuffing?
Well, unfortunately, my first cookbook has one that's zucchini soup with corn and pancetta stuffing. I think there's a few books out there, but it's out of print now.
Yeah, but the stuffing is really just any meat and
Anything.
veg option that you just throw in the soup on top after it's done, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and someday we'll write one up for you. But it is just like in a separate pan, you make a saute of your meats and add some fresh veg or whatever you want, and then scoop that down in the center. So you can just find your inspiration of what you like from that. So when you have your chicken in there, we're just doing a whole chicken stock right now. Then you want to put like a glug, like a tablespoon
Of
apple cider vinegar. We talked about this one time, I think the very first time we popped on, but we actually put this in our animal waters on the farm. And John, you tell them about that.
Yeah, it's like 1 cup per 10 or 20 gallons. It's a prebiotic that helps feed probiotics, that helps their rumen function properly. It balances the pH in the rumen.
That's
And
funny.
it's
You don't
I
have
guess
to
it's
do
like volatile fatty acid, so it actually acts as an immediate energy source and oftentimes helps the animals who are
Thank you.
scouring, which is kind of tough to talk about this during a cooking show, but diarrhea essentially kind of helps get the rumen back in shape. It has a lot of other benefits too, sort of part of our preemptive healthcare.
Here, bud, you can put all that in compost. Here's the compost.
We buy big 275-gallon totes of apple cider vinegar, essentially the mash, the part that has all the apple bits in it, that they end up filtering out and don't use for the Bragg's bottling.
Okay, so I'm gonna now let this simmer, because it is simmering. I'm gonna kind of pop the lid like that. And we're gonna let this go while we're doing this other stuff, like 10 minutes. And then at the end, I'm gonna put the stinging nettle and the collards in there so that they aren't just cooked to bits. Because stinging nettle, you want to be in there for at least like 2 minutes. 2 minutes, so 2 minutes, so that you get the sting off. Because that's how you get them to be de-stung, is by...
I've already been past
Yeah, we
Oh, there you go. Good.
You'd have to read as far as like, can you give ACV to? Well, first of all, why put apple cider vinegar in?
Oh yeah, so
in
you do
the-
that because it actually there's.
Hold on, just finish saying if you could.
So you put apple cider vinegar in with your chicken stock when you start because it helps to leach the minerals, to begin the process of leaching the minerals from the bones of the chicken, because that's what you're wanting, is you're wanting as much of the nutrient property of those bones to come into your broth, and that's what you're drinking. When I was nursing Bodhi, I would, as often as I could, bring a cup of chicken stock during the day when I wasn't overly tired, a cup of chicken stock, and be drinking that while I was nursing. It was just something that made me remember to have that chicken stock in my diet, because you're replenishing yourself so much. No midwife told me to do that necessarily. It's just what I did, and it definitely was one of the pieces I feel that like got my strength back up.
How much apple cider vinegar?
So a tablespoon, like a glug,
Yeah, glug, yeah.
is fine. And so you do that, and then you would ideally leave this sit here for an hour, and then you'd bring it to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, let it simmer for a while, and it depends, then you can choose how long you want to let it go, like how long you want to let it simmer. But I sometimes do let it simmer overnight. But once you've raised to a boil, reduced to a simmer, then you can put your vegetables into the stock. So we're out of carrots right now, which is very sad. Bodhi had a moment the other week when we went down to the garden and saw there weren't carrots. It was sad, wasn't it, buddy?
I really wanted carrots, and now I really want some.
Well, I can't give you a slice of this. So these are store-bought carrots, and I have a old, stock is great for like use up what needs to get out of your refrigerator. So this is a celery that's like on its last leg. So I'd put that in there. So you do, I guess I can go ahead and do it. We'll start to bring, I'm skipping steps, but we'll start to bring that up to a boil.
Do we need this bowl?
No, you can put it in the sink. That's great. So the carrots, you don't have to peel, just give them a scrub. I don't peel carrots that are grown in the garden for me just to eat on a regular basis. Store-bought carrots, if I was just gonna sit down and eat this and not have it being boiling for hours. then I would do that. I would peel it. You want a little bit? Oh, he's eating that. Okay, so these are huge, so I cut them up a little bit, but you can put these guys down in there. So ordinarily, like I said, I'd wait for an hour now, then I'd bring it to a boil, reduce to a simmer, then I'd add my veg and skim off the top, the foamy stuff that comes, and discard that. But today, we're just gonna throw it all in there. Where's our compost?
Somebody actually asked if we can give ACV to dogs, and the dogs drink, the Guardian dogs drink out of the livestock water troughs. So yeah, I mean, we're giving small doses of it in water. You don't want to give too much apple cider vinegar. Even a human shouldn't drink too much straight. It's about a dilution of the mix. One of the ways, I mean, then when they're giving like ACV to horses in their water, if the horse poop starts to get a little runny, then they know they've given too much ACV. So it's not to be overused.
So so I have carrots, celery, but you can put, it does not have to be these rigid things. There are certain things you don't want to put in stock, like you wouldn't want to put beets in there. You're going to color it a whole lot. Cabbage wouldn't be one, like red cabbage you wouldn't want to put in there. Okay,
Mom.
so, thanks, that's helpful. So I'm gonna throw some onions in there, and the skins can go into, if you're making a vegetable stock, using lots of skins of onion is how you give your stock a darker color. I'm gonna literally just take a whole bulb of garlic and cut it in half and kind of break it up a little bit. Throw that in there.
So not even take the skins off, right?
Nope. Just throw it in. And then I'm gonna put, if I can find, I have some peppercorns here. So I'm gonna throw a few peppercorns in, like that. And then,
Luckily when I to the barn, I bring another pack down.
you know what, I have a job for you.
What?
Do you know those bushes that are right next to your dance floor?
Yeah?
Can you grab a couple of those leaves and bring them in?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so there's some bay bushes out there. So we're gonna get a couple bay leaves to put in there, and he's gonna go get them.
See you in a second.
See you in a second.
Oh, bye-bye.
Yeah, so he's gonna go get those. It's great. Now I have started to train him on what different herbs are. So he runs down to the garden and we'll get rosemary and stuff. Rosemary is hard to cut when you're little, but he can do the delicate leaves. So that's gonna now, already hot. We're gonna bring that to a boil, reduce to a simmer. Then I'm gonna strain off the top to get the fuzzy stuff, the foam to come off, and then put a lid on that. I usually push it to the back burners, which are more gentle burners, and reduce to a simmer and let it sit there. If you do it a short amount of time, that's what they would typically call broth. If you do it a long overnight, it's more of a stock. Stock maximizes the nutrients in it, but sometimes the gelatin breaks down, so you won't get as much gelatin. Shorter, your 4 to 6 range, sometimes you'll end up getting more gelatin, but that also has to do with how much bones are in your, and the good stuff like chicken feed.
So
people that don't want chicken feed need to start to understand stock, because they'll want those feet for in there because you get amazing gelatin.
So the bay leaves don't have to be dried is a question?
No, not at all. I think that drying in general will condense essential oils, but it's not gonna, using fresh bay leaves is great.
And then can this be done in a crock pot?
Oh yeah, and that's a great way if you don't, this is a safe, thank you, that was amazing, good job.
Let's see what he got.
You got some bay leaves. There you go. It's even a bay flower on there.
Mom, do you
We'll
need?
pull that off. That's great.
Do you need any more?
If you want to get a few more, we can dry them out.
Sure.
Yeah, go for it. So,
and if you could go to the store and get some toilet paper, that would be great.
Okay, so I just threw 2 bay leaves in there too. So we got everything we need to go there. So that's done. Oh, I think this might have buzzed with our heat, but I need a little bit more water in there so I can make dandelion tea for you guys. So, whoa. Okay. Woo. Hot, hot. I should have turned it down. Sorry. Probably scared everybody. I scared me a little bit. So, now we're gonna go ahead and let's see. We're gonna turn that back up because it's not boiling enough. When this is done, we're gonna make dandelion tea. So, I'm gonna show you some footage now of us out in the field. This is our first time we did this. It was super fun. We were out on a family walk. We brought some shovels and we were able to dig up dandelion roots, which are a long taproot into the, they have a long taproot, which makes them really good for the soil because it breaks up the soil. And similar to how gophers go down and break things up, but they are way less annoying than gophers. So we dug up some of these. Oh, there it is. That's awesome. See, we're putting them in our basket to bring back home.
And if you just tap on your screen over the image, if your text is covering it, a lot of times it helps the text go away if you've been typing questions and stuff.
Yes. Oh, and I didn't finish the person that asked about crock pot. It's great for crock pot and it can be safer for kitchens that don't have like big ranges. But yeah.
Oh, and there was something else crazy that happened while we were out there.
Oh.
Remember?
Yes.
You want to tell them?
So John is typically our most observant family member, at least out in the when we're out in the field. But I was so proud of myself because I looked over and I saw this little teeny tiny mouse that was on the top. You can hardly even tell how high up he was because he was incredibly high up on this piece of grass and just sitting there. And he let us go so close to him, and then he crawled to the even further on the edge of it. Let me make sure I'm not, okay. And it started to bend down the grass a little bit.
Sow thistle?
Yeah, sow thistle. Oh yeah, he is on sow thistle. And yeah, so we got to spend this really quiet moment with this cute little mouse while we were out there until our dog Blue literally ran in through where he was. But he was fine. He just fell on soft.
But just to give you a perspective of how tiny this mouse is, this is a shot of an iPhone next to the mouse. Look how tiny this guy is.
Can I see you?
Here, come here. Bodie wants to see too.
You see him?
But the whole family, we were just sitting there completely quiet watching this mouse from that close to him.
Mom, I need a star of them.
So,
Mom, I need a
oh
star of
my
them.
gosh. That's awesome, bud. Okay, I'm gonna now make some dandelion root tea. So
Here you go.
oh thanks, you can put them right up there with those other bay leaves. So in here, I've started, it's a very modest herb area, but it's going to grow and grow. I have visions. But this is the dandelion root we collected, and then...
You see what it looks like?
Sure. And then we brought it in the house.
So just the root.
Yep.
Just the root chopped up.
We scrubbed it up, we chopped it up and dehydrated it. You could do it in a low temp in your oven too, or out in the sun, I'm sure. And then you can roast it afterwards, so then it's roasted dandelion root, which is nice as well, but I didn't roast it this time. I'm sure I will in the future. And you can also grind it up if you wanted to. But I'm gonna now, this is very also good for liver detoxification. You can taste it. Almost anything that's good for the liver, like really good for the liver, when you taste it, you're kind of like, whoa, that is really bitter. And that bitter flavor livers love. They appreciate, maybe that's what it is. So,
Whoa, Mom, that's steam.
yeah, this is steaming. We're gonna turn that back down. Let me get Okay, good. We're about to add the rest of our ingredients here. Then we can blend
I thought it was not good.
Yes, it's all right though. So we have dandelion root here. I'm gonna take like about a teaspoon. That's a generous heaping teaspoon. Throw it in there. And then I like to do all my herbal teas in here because I'll show you why in a minute. And I'll pour them into my cup in a minute after I steep it. So I'm gonna pour some hot water over it and just let it sit. I did just a cup of water to a teaspoon of the...
I usually see us use that for coffee, for coffee, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, sometimes for coffee too. And then
I feel like most
we put this, I like to put a plate over top of it so that it steeps And then when we're all done with it steeping, I'm gonna pour it over top of this. And last week we made a plantain leaf tea, and oftentimes I'll put a teaspoon of plantain in there with the dandelion root and then strain it off. So.
Oh, and people can watch this live, right? Or sorry, they can watch the repeat of this.
Yeah. Okay, so we have our soup.
I think that's on this, right? It's on the YouTube channel.
I said yeah, but I don't
actually
know.
It's youtube.com/Apricot Lane Farms. So you can watch the recorded version of it that hopefully won't be as blurry as what apparently is being transmitted right now. Sorry guys, it's the internet. We blame the internet.
We literally live in an area where they don't even run the cables out here, so we have a very unique setup to be able to get an internet out here. It's been a chore for us because we are a thriving business, so we do need it. So I'm cutting just a little bit more stinging nettle. We're gonna throw this in. Stinging nettle actually tastes a bit like a spinach, or even more delicious spinach. So it really is a nice addition to the soup. If you aren't gonna blanch it first, which is in like a pot of water, it is gonna be a more strong flavor, so we're just gonna do a little bit in this. So I'm pouring that in, putting that in. We're just gonna let it be in there for like 2 minutes. And then-
Somebody's asking when,
yeah, go for it.
No, somebody's asking when you're gonna have a cookbook.
Oh, so that actually is in the works now. 6 months ago, I would have said that there's no way, but this team kind of came together in a great way. And so I'm actually writing it with the help of a woman named Sarah Owens, who has written a number of beautiful, beautiful, soulful books. There's one particularly called Sourdough that just blew my mind. It's what opened me to the idea of working with somebody to get it done. It's so good. And she spent years also working in botanical gardens, so she really understands food from the perspective of microbes. And Blue's cleaning up the floor now. Best thing about dogs.
And our dog.
Yeah, our dog in particular.
If anybody else in there has a dog, he might clean up.
So dogs are good at cleaning up the floors, right?
There are never run out battery vacuums.
Never run out battery vacuums.
Yeah. Well, you have to train them a lot you have to train them a lot.
You do.
You do.
That's
yes,
true.
you do.
Yeah,
good observation.
So the rest of that about the cookbook, so I'm writing with her and our culinary team here, Kayla and Stephanie, Maria. We're all working together to put together a beautiful book that hopefully will be out spring of 2022. Oh God, that seems so far away, but it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
But we're writing the proposal right now. We're almost finished. Corona has slowed us up because we don't have the resources we usually have. But then we will be sending that proposal out, hopefully finding a great publisher to work with, and we're shooting for that spring 2022. So I'll keep you guys posted.
Sarah
on
Owens.
That. Yeah, Sarah Owens is the, is she on there? She was on last time we did a live, so I thought she might be on there.
Oh.
But she's, check her books out, Sourdough, Toasted Jam, and another one is Heirloom, and they are truly all very beautiful. And I wrote a book with my mother called Back to Butter that's no longer in print, but there are a few out there. I mentioned it earlier. So I wrote that, but now this will be the first one that's really written with Apricot Lane Farms. So we have everything. I think I can take a question or two while we're, I'm gonna turn this off now, this soup. We're just gonna turn it off, take off the lid. I can take off my gloves now.
Tell them why you had the gloves on.
The gloves were for the stinging nettle, because it will sting you, literally.
Lori didn't like the gloves. She said if you have to wear gloves to cook with something, I wouldn't need it.
No, it's great. That sting, it's just like a crusty human, you know? It's a little bit cranky, but if you just give it a little love, then it gives you more nutrition than any of the other things that are easy to deal with.
Are the veggies in season?
So all these veggies, the cauliflower I did get at the store, but all of our collards and our snap peas, I could have added the snap peas later to keep them more green. I probably, if I went back and did this again, I would do the cauliflower first, then add the snap peas for a minute so they maintain that bright green, then the collards in the stinging nettle for just like 2 minutes and be done with it. So, oh my gosh, I didn't season anything at the end here. We got to season. So,
and C-Beam 212 says she's a human, or he says I'm a human nettle today.
That's awesome. I totally am turning this back on for a second because I forgot to put in any of our seasoning. So I have Padron. This is pepper that we grew here. And
face the label towards us.
Yes. So this is just my
That
writing.
is a fancy label.
I know. That is my version of my home label. And Padron peppers, we let them go till they were red. Padron you often eat when they're green, but we let them go till they're red. They have a little heat to them, and then we grind them up, and it makes you sneeze and eyes water while you're grinding it in the food processor or blender. And then I'm gonna add a little bit, not a lot, because Bodie will eat this too, and he's not the biggest fan of heat, but we'll add that in there of hot stuff. Yeah, and then you want to be generous with your salt. I don't know what I have on there, but I have a pretty good sized pot today. So you don't want salt. Salt enhances flavor. It's not designed to be the flavor unless you're doing a finishing salt. So you don't want to overdo salt. You just want it to make the flavor be very full. And then we're going to add a little bit of fresh ground pepper. So I would have done this back whenever I probably like 5 minutes ago. So we'll stir that around a bit, and we're about to blend that. So let's pull over. Oh, sorry, you okay, buddy? Splattered my kid. Okay, we're gonna pull our blender over. I actually had to pull in a different blender because my blender right now is on the fritz. It literally smells like smoke when I use it.
I'm getting blamed for the reason it smells like smoke. You
His
can just tell him.
His bulletproof coffee, all the oil went down.
Yeah, the oil, like, no seal can keep the oil in when blending a bulletproof coffee mix. So it literally shorts out the mixer. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
Okay, so I would ordinarily, so Bo, you stand back for this one a little bit. I would ordinarily let this soup cool a bit before I'm gonna put it in the blender, but we ain't got time for that today. So we're just gonna be careful about it.
Oh geez, this makes me nervous.
This is, yeah, every time I say that, that's like everything's about to go down. But
oh, you're gonna do it like that. Okay,
yeah,
that's
we're
better.
gonna ladle some in. I'll just do enough so that you guys can get the gist. There's our beautiful bright collards. So see how the collards stayed
Can it be
bright?
Can it be eaten without blending?
Sure, you can if you want. I didn't chop things with that in mind, so it's not as beautiful as it could be, but you certainly could. So I would, like I said, I would add the snap peas later next time so that they're bright as well. And I'm just doing a little. I'll do the rest of this later so I don't make you guys wait.
Are we worried that it was...
No, I'm so nervous she's gonna forget to put the lid on before she turns the blender on.
Look at Bodie hiding from it, going all over the place.
Oh look, he
he's
knows.
got glue.
Bodie's hiding because he knows that Mom has forgotten to put the top on before. So they're behind a
Oh my gosh, I wish we had that picture for them.
Oh.
We literally have a picture from one day that I tried to stir something while
the blender was
going,
on. She stuck something in the blender.
and it went all
And I
over
came
my
out.
face. I'm not that irresponsible, but things do happen. I cook a lot.
Bodie and I just heard a loud explosion.
And something splattered on the roof.
It was on.
Yes.
I mean, it was all. Fortunately, you were wearing glasses.
I was. Yeah, I was wearing glasses.
Can you use an immersion blender?
Yeah, you certainly can. You totally can. So, here, wait. I don't actually...
Why use this blender versus handheld? I don't understand that question, maybe.
Versus the immersion blender.
Oh,
you can
that's what
use an immersion blender. I think they're fine. I get a little bit more of a creamy texture whenever I use
a Vitamix?
A Vitamix.
Yeah.
So I tend to like that. I'm going to put one more scoop of that in here. And I'm going to drip it on the floor whenever I go over.
Let's look for the drips.
So just be prepared.
Yeah, there's some drips.
Woo, look at that beautiful bright green collard. It's so nice. Joy, thank you. Woo. Okay, our chicken stock is coming to a boil. And so my slotted spoon that I love more than anything, I don't know what has happened to. So, sorry, we're having commotion on the side because Blue just bit Bodhi's hat. But we don't have a lot of stuff that needs to be skimmed here. My water is a little high. I would have a little less water in it, but it's gonna be fine because it's gonna cook down quickly. So we can now just turn that down to a simmer, and I'm actually gonna move it onto the back so that it's a lighter, it's a lighter burner. It's a less strong burner. So we're just gonna pull this back here, and now it is gonna be going to town for literally for 24 hours. It's gonna be very beautiful. Smelling in the house. It's gonna smell beautiful in the house for that long. So, now I have to figure out how to use this blender.
Oh, jeez.
There we go. Okay. So this is, I'm just gonna blend. I was kind of watching, and when there weren't as many little green specks, then I knew that I was pretty well blended. I'm gonna taste, because now's your opportunity to add just a little bit more seasoning if you need it. So let's do that. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice texture. We did well. It's super hot. Good job, bud. They're still in safety mode. It's really good. It needs a little. Sure, it's still hot.
It needs a little.
It needs a little bit more salt.
Mom, I thought we were using these.
So we did. We used a couple, and then those were gonna dry. So I'm gonna add another pinch of salt. That was more than a pinch. Okay, I changed mugs because I thought it looked better with that bowl. Okay.
What is that dandelion? What is the dandelion root tea?
What is it?
What does it taste like?
So dandelion root tea is like, it has a bitter quality to it. And if you don't like that, then you certainly can sweeten it up a little bit. You can add it to other herbs so that it has more well-rounded flavors for you. I tend to like it because that bitterness, I've come to just be a flavor profile that I think is kind of delicious. I've also used this and then steeped some green tea in there as well. So it's like I have a cup of green tea every morning. So that will be, then together I get more bang for my buck.
So if you're just joining the live stream, just ended after an hour by itself. Sorry about that. I guess they're automatically kicking people off.
I was very ambitious about what we were cooking today. But, okay, so we have our green soup here. I just added a little bit more seasoning, so I'm gonna quickly blend once more. Oh, geez, it did. I don't know this blender yet. It's a new blender. Here, there we go. Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought I had it all together. Bodhi's back behind the...
Like, this is what happens. We know when mommy's using the blender. Everybody hide. Hide!
Okay, we're gonna take off this messy top. There we go. See, when you guys see, when you can see what actually happens to me in the kitchen, it takes away so much mystery. So we have this beautiful soup now. I'm gonna move this out of the way, clean up some of my soup splotches. And then just ignore what's on my sleeve. And now, here we go. We have
to blend it again.
We have the final step. So I'm gonna get
Blue was trying to get my hat at the beginning.
Maybe a white bowl.
a white bowl. Okay, John has a vision.
Well, green on green might clash a little, you know.
I know, but I don't have a good white bowl.
All right, well, sorry, I shouldn't be.
Yeah, I chose this bowl.
It's not my area.
Or maybe this one. We can do this one.
That looks nice.
Okay. All right. So Here's our healing soup. My sister-in-law always emails me or texts me whenever, after they have some sort of something that goes through their house. They make this
When you
every
say
time.
something that goes through their house, what do you mean
Like
by that?
whenever they have a cold go through their house or the flu or something like that, they always, she always tells me they make this soup and that people ask for it in their house because it's so simple but so nourishing and comforting. So there's
Mom,
our
if you don't
healing
know
green
how-
soup.
If you don't know how to use that blender, maybe use another one. But if you have to, if that's the only one you have to use that one.
You're right. He's the words of wisdom. If I just listen to Bodhi about those kinds of things,
then what
it's a
is
lot
this?
more practical. So now we have dandelion root tea. So this is what we showed you where we harvested it the other day on a family walk. So I've been steeping this for about 10 minutes or so. And then I always like to take a spoon and kind of make sure I'm getting all the flavor out of the dandelion like that.
I didn't know we were using dandelions.
Yeah, that's the ones we got in the field the other day.
Oh, dandelions.
And so here we are. We have a dandelion root tea, good for the liver, good for times of spring, for detoxification, good to continue to detoxify us during this coronavirus. Is a nice time to go gently. You don't want to do heavy detoxification right now. And then we have the healing tea, or the healing soup, where we used our snap peas from the garden, our collards, our green garlic, our leeks, our stinging nettle, which is filled with iron
walking around the
and
table.
vitamins.
Oh.
And,
then he just turned out.
I Beam It says, do you blend everything you cooked and then put it together? Or only blend when you eat it?
Oh, I blend everything. Okay, but we're done, pretty much. We have our dandelion root tea, we have our healing soup. This will end up being my lunch today. I'm sure I'll add something else in there, maybe a hard-boiled egg on the side or something. So before we wrap up, we just wanted to tell you guys about tomorrow. We have Fridays on the farm. That is something that John will do. Bodhi and I will come up and say hello. And it's at 10 a.m. tomorrow Pacific time. This is the third week that we're going to be doing this. And the topic of this week is chickens. So we'll learn all about chickens. I hope they introduce Butterball, which is one of our chicken characters on the farm, but I don't know what they're doing. It's a surprise to me.
Lots of
too.
baby chicks.
Lots of baby chicks. That's awesome.
Oh,
baby
my,
chicks.
I didn't know that.
That's exciting. We'll go up. And spring is the time of baby chicks.
Cool.
So, well, thank you guys for hanging out with us today. It was really, really fun, and we'll keep trying to do this on Thursday. You want to say goodbye?
One time at school in my walks, I went over to actually feed some.
Make sure you're shooting the shot.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Good cook.
Bye.
Great camera operator.
Bye. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Have a good day.
See you